What's that sound? It's For Amusement Only, the EM and Bingo Pinball Podcast.
Welcome back to For Amusement Only. This is Nick Baldridge. Let's talk about playing a bingo, and more specifically, how to appropriately nudge the machine. This is more art than science. At least it is for me. You have to be careful not to tilt the machine, but the machine does allow for a good latitude of movement that allows the ball to be maneuvered skillfully away from one of the trap holes or to one of the trap holes, adding an extra oomph to bounce off of a post or taking away momentum to steer it away from a trap hole. The way that I play is a way that Steve showed me how to play, and I've adjusted that playing style a bit based on how long I have to play. That is a factor. And how serious I am about it. And if I'm just doing a demonstration for somebody, or if I am actually trying to win. All those are kind of different scenarios for me. So the way that I normally play is to shoot the ball, and based on how far back you pull the plunger, it's going to drop the ball on either the left or the right hand side. Then I will immediately lean forward and grab the top of the side rails near where the ball is. If the ball is moving towards a hole that I don't want it to, I'll nudge the machine or pull the machine to try to steer the ball away. If I want to make a particular number, then I will first of all try to get it going down the correct side, and then nudge as it's headed towards a post to try to ricochet it into the appropriate hole. Now, as I've mentioned hundreds of times probably already, I am not a terribly skilled player. There are players who are much, much more accurate at calling a shot and then landing than I am. I play a lot for fun, and it's mostly against myself, so I don't end up, getting super competitive with it. So as the ball travels down the playfield, I typically only move my hands once, from the top to about 3/4 of the way down. And I've gotten tips from folks that have told me to be much more active in how I move my hands. However, that's just how I do. I'll probably adjust that style once I pick up my next bingo, which is a 6-card, and that'll require an almost completely different skill set because I'll have to make numbers much more seriously in order to win on that machine versus something that has sections or movable numbers. So as far as nudging goes, I do it with my hands, but I also do it with my knee. I will brace my upper leg against the front of the machine, and I'll use that to kind of counterbalance what I'm doing with my hands. So I'm able to guide the ball without nudging the entire machine, which prevents it from tilting. At least if I do it correctly. I do tilt. And sometimes that's exactly what I need to do. It can be a good tension release if I tilt. So these skills are completely transferable to any era of pinball, It's much more suited to the EM era, which was much more nudge-friendly than, say, the modern era, where the machines take the ball and trap it for long periods of time, play an animation, sing a song, do a dance, and then shoot the ball back at you. This even applies to games which are typically considered fast these days. An EM appropriately set up is going to be quite fast, and it will require much more skill from the player in order to prevent tilting while still controlling the ball in order to guide it to the small 2-inch flippers. Another interesting thing to consider as far as playability is concerned, when you're switching from a game that has 2-inch flippers to 3-inch flippers, it feels like you have a baseball bat versus a stick. There's so much more room for the ball to travel on a 3-inch flipper, it almost feels like cheating at first. That feeling quickly wears away, at least it does for me, but it is interesting and something to consider when you think about these older machines. Will they help you become a better player? And I feel like yes, almost unequivocally, the answer is yes. Bingos especially. There is an art form, as I mentioned, to nudging the ball without tilting. You get a feel for how the tilt bob is swinging at any given moment, and just how much you can push the machine until it's too far. How much until it's over the edge. There are no warnings in a bingo. It just tilts. There are no warnings in an EM. They just tilt. Depending on the machine, they take your ball, or they take your entire game. In a bingo, they take your entire game. Now imagine how frustrating this is when you pump $1's worth of nickels into the machine in order to get your odds and features where you'd like them. Then the machine takes it all away in an instant because you've misjudged how far the machine can move. I've been asked before if I thought that bingos were more luck than skill, because it seems like there's nothing that you have to do in order to win. Well, that's absolutely not the case. If you randomly let the balls fall where they may, there is a certain chance that you'll win. However, through careful steering of the balls, you will win much more frequently and have a much better time. So that's all for tonight. My name again is Nick Baldridge. You can reach me at foramusementonlypodcast@gmail.com. You can find us online at foramusementonly.libsyn.com. You can listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Casts, RSS, or even on Facebook. I've added a new feature which auto-posts and is supposed to automatically add some form of player. Not really sure what it's going to do, but hopefully it does something well and correctly. I'll talk to you next time. Thanks for listening.